Yes, he's in the back.
Mr. Clerk, matter number 2, Commonwealth versus Robert Gulla, 2010-208. The matter is on for arraignment. Counsel for the record and whom you represent, please.
Good morning, Mr. Magistrate. Lisa McGovern for the Commonwealth.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Magistrate. Casey Sylvia on behalf of the Commonwealth.
Good morning, Mr. Magistrate. John Galvin on behalf of Mr. Gulla.
I arraign this defendant.
Yes.
Mr. Clerk, count 001 against Mr. Robert Gulla is count of murder in the first degree. The defendant was served in hand and read a copy of the murder indictment by Middlesex Deputy Sheriff Stephen Batchelor on March 5th, 2010. Case of the Commonwealth versus Robert Gulla on amendment number 2010-208-001, charging murder in the first degree. Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Middlesex to wit, at the Superior Court, begun and holden at the City of Woburn, within and for the County of Middlesex, on the first Monday of March in the year of our Lord 2010. The jurors for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts on their oath present that Robert Gulla, on the 23rd day of January in the year of our Lord 2010 at Shirley in the County of Middlesex aforesaid, did assault and beat Allison Merrick with intent to murder her, and by such assault and beating did kill and murder Allison Merrick. Against the peace of said Commonwealth and contrary to the form of the statute, in such case made and provided a true bill. Mr. Gulla, how do you plead to this indictment?
Not guilty.
Counts 2, 3, and 4 are charges of assault and battery, and counts 5 are violation of a restraining order. Mr. Gulla, do you waive the formal reading to each of these defendants?
Yes.
How do you plead?
Not guilty.
Commonwealth bail to the defendant.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. The Commonwealth would move to have this defendant held without bail pending the final verdict in this matter, Your Honor. We believe there are no circumstances which would guarantee the safety of the Commonwealth were this defendant allowed to be released on bail. And I am prepared to outline for the court the nature and seriousness of the offenses with which this man has been charged, if the court would allow me to do that at this time. Your Honor, this man, Robert Gulla, met Allison Myrick, a 19-year-old college freshman, just over 4 months before he killed her. He met her at a party he'd been invited to at Fitchburg State College. And they soon entered into a dating relationship, a consensual dating relationship. But as the court would note, there are prior incidents prior to Allison Myrick being murdered on January 23rd. On October 3rd, a matter of weeks after meeting and starting dating Allison Myrick, Robert Gulla assaulted and beat Allison Myrick at his home in Shirley. He was angry with her and didn't believe that she was following his orders and didn't believe that she was complying with his request that she not talk or text to other people. He twisted her knee, he punched her, he pushed her down. She stayed there that night with no way to get away other than him to get back to school. And on October 4th, he also assaulted her, angry over her use of her phone, angry over her behavior. When he finally brought Allison Myrick back to college, she went to the Fitchburg State College police and told them what had happened. And as a result of that, charges were eventually issued after a clerk's hearing. The other assault and battery that is before you relates to an incident that happened in December, because although Allison Myrick knew what had happened to her in October was wrong, and although she had reached out for help and had received help from family, friends, and police, she was still attracted to Robert Gulla, and she still cared for him, and she still accepted his company, and even on certain times sought his company. And on December 11th, one of those occasions where she did agree to see him again at his home, he became enraged when she left for a few moments, left his company, and left her phone behind. He looked through her phone and saw that she had been communicating with other men. And when she came back, he became enraged and not only argued and yelled, but beat her and threw her to the ground. And as a result of his behavior, his mother, who was home at the time, called Shirley Police. Shirley Police arrived at that scene, arrested him for assault and battery, and took into evidence Allison Myrick's broken phone, which this defendant had thrown again and again onto the ground, beating it and breaking it into pieces. As a result of that incident, Allison Myrick was assisted in obtaining an emergency restraining order, which was only in place for 1 day because she declined to go and extend it. And once again, upset over what had happened, she tried to distance herself from Robert Gulla, but she still cared for him, was still attracted to him, chose to forgive him, and did agree to see him again, and saw him a few times. He was not content with the amount of time and attention that she was giving to him. He sought to be her only boyfriend. He sought to have all of her attention. And when he didn't think that she was answering his calls and his text messages quickly enough on January 18th, he became irate, and on January 19th began calling her and texting her incessantly, using vile profanity and threats to the point where Allison Myrick reached out to the police, to friends, to family, asking for their help. And on the 19th, a restraining order was issued by the Fitchburg District Court, which was in full force and effect through Allison Myrick's murder, and wouldn't have been in effect until February 2nd, which forbade this man from having any contact with Allison Myrick whatsoever. When he was served with that order on the 19th at 8:26 p.m., there was a brief reprieve, and for a few hours, the calls and the text messages stopped. But within a matter of days, he called her again, and he called her again, and he called her again. And he violated that restraining order many, many times. And tragically, Allison Myrick agreed to see him, and in fact suggested that they get together on Friday, January 22nd. And she left her dorm at approximately 11:30 p.m., never to return. Because the next day, Robert Gulla murdered her. And the Commonwealth has forensic evidence as well as eyewitness evidence, not of the murder itself, but eyewitness evidence which will corroborate the forensic evidence to explain what happened to Allison Myrick on the 22nd and the 23rd of January. And what the Commonwealth will be able to show is that what started once again as a caring reunion between these two people quickly erupted into the situation, once again, conflict over who she had been communicating, what she had been doing. There are text messages which have been preserved and recorded, which reveal that the following morning, on Saturday the 23rd, Allison Myrick, in a state of fear, text messaged a close friend of hers at college saying she'd made a very big mistake, that she had gone to Robert Gulla's house again, and that she was afraid. The Commonwealth will show that at 4:30 p.m., this defendant's mother returned home after working for the day. And when she heard arguing in this defendant's basement bedroom, she called him up to ask him what was going on. And he went upstairs to talk to her. And because he went upstairs, the Commonwealth will be able to show, Allison Myrick then had the opportunity to text a friend again. And it was at that point, that she said, "I'm so scared. I'm not even kidding. He went through my phone again." Robert Gulla's mother only stayed for a few minutes and then left the Shirley residence. And the evidence will infer at that point that this defendant took his mother's foot-long kitchen knife, which hung on a magnetic strip next to the stove, and brought it downstairs to the basement. And what we know from bloodstains near the stairway out of that bedroom, the only exit from that bedroom, is that substantial injury occurred at that point when Robert Gulla sliced Allison Myrick's throat and larynx. We also know that he stabbed her in the abdomen several times. We know that he stabbed her in the back twice. We know that he stabbed her on the right side of her head 3 times. We know that he beat her. Petechia in the face revealed that he strangled her. This is important to convey because the Commonwealth believes that it has all the evidence it needs to prove not only that this defendant deliberately, with premeditated malice and forethought, murdered Allison Myrick, but also with extreme atrocity and cruelty. After Allison Myrick died, this defendant, evidence will show, smoked cigarettes, called his mother, texted his mother and said, "I love you, Mom," wrote a note to his family, and took a pellet gun and shot himself in the head. He also took a knife and cut a cut in his left wrist. When his mother returned approximately 2 hours later, she found Robert Gulla moaning on the floor next to Allison Myrick's lifeless body. And EMT people came and asked what happened, and after several times, Robert Gulla offered, "Well, looks like someone died." He was med-flighted to the UMass Medical Center, but his injuries were not substantial, and he was released within 3 days. Allison Myrick, as you might surmise, was dead at the scene, though it may be important to indicate, with respect to the level of proof that the Commonwealth has in this case, that her heart was beating when those stab wounds were put into her abdomen. So in summary, there is, given the nature and seriousness of this offense, of all of these offenses, we would request that Robert Gulla be held without bail, pending the verdict in this matter, in this first-degree murder case. Thank you.
Do not ask to be heard on bail, we ask that be set without prejudice. April 28th, the trial conference.
The allegation of record, you were 21 days on behalf of the court.
Yes.
The defendant will be held without bail, which will be set without prejudice. The matter will be continued to April 28th, 6 a.m. in court.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.